As a teenager, I found her dead on the settee at 14 years old, and that just really traumatised the rest of probably the next 20 years of my life. All I ever felt as a little boy was fear. I just wanted to become a machine and to be so violent to ward people off because I felt so scared and frightened. I was a heroin addict, crack addict, living on the streets of London begging for food and drugs. In my place of brokenness, in my despair, in that lowest place that I could be as a man, as a father and as a person, God met me. The being that created this whole universe and all these questions that I asked for all these years was like, well, he cares about me. Mum was a real old school type lady who was roll your sleeves up, get stuck in, but unfortunately with the love came violence within the house and around me growing up. So I had a very mixed view of how I felt towards her because, I kind of loved her unconditionally, but at the same time, there was an element to the household that made me frightened as well. As a teenager, I found her dead on the settee at 14 years old, and that just really traumatised the rest of probably the next 20 years of my life. And then also kind of, physical and sexual abuse, not from my mum, but from other people around that time as a boy growing up. All I ever felt as a little boy was fear. And I used to spend as much time as I could kind of out the house, wandering the streets, hiding in the woods, going fishing, being active in sport. But at that point of trauma, I generally believe that something inside me broke, and it broke and it just erupted this ball of rage. It really did. Because from that moment onwards, I had vowed I would never be a victim again. And after suffering at the hands of bullying in the community from the older lads on the street and in the estate, I kind of, all I ever knew was being kicked up and down. Wherever I went, I just thought I'd just keep getting hit. My attitude towards my dad was one of, I hated this person I didn't know because of the story that I was told. He was packing his bags up. Me as a baby, 8 months old, was laid in the bedroom doorway, and as he's packed his clothes, he's stepped over me, laid in the doorway, and that image kind of bothered me so much because I thought, why didn't he just pick me up and move me? Or, I was told it was like a stepping stone of him leaving, and he chose to step over me and leave us the majority of our lives. That caused me so much problems growing up towards male figures of authority, because anybody I saw in a male light, I looked at them as with an anger. I just started to train then, do weightlifting and do running and do lots of fitness. I wanted just to become a machine and to be so violent to ward people off because I felt so scared and frightened. All these men that was around us were tough, hard men, and I copied them. Within a year, I was out drinking with them. Within 2 years, I was flying through the ranks as one of the toughest ones. It was, that's what my goals changed, and I wanted to be the hardest in the area. And going into that prison sentence, the first one, in a suit, as a pro rugby player, I could have a bit of a fight after I've had a few beers in the pub, but I wasn't criminally minded. I wasn't a criminal. I was a broken, lost little boy. I lost my rugby contract. I lost everything that I understood to be normal. And I was in now this new place that I then started to look to these people, again, searching for family with prisoners. So when I finished that sentence, I came out to face another one. And within 18 months of signing that professional contract, I was a heroin addict, crack addict, living on the streets of London begging for food and drugs. And then what happened there is that I just then spiraled so fast, so quick in a short period of time, where I lost any dignity, any self-respect, any kind of worth. But most of all, I lost anybody that cared anything about me. I just destroyed everything in the foul world of addiction. In total, there was 7 prison sentences that I served over a 20-year period. I had a 4-year sentence, then a 3.5 year, then an 18-month and a 12-month, and all these different times. And each one of them just took something a bit more and took something a bit more and took something a bit more. Whenever I found myself in prison, I always felt drawn, searching for this answer, like what are we here for? Why am I here? Who am I? This identity crisis. I searched in philosophy, I searched in, meditation, Buddhism, all these different things, looking for the answer to life. I was so broken, so damaged, so messed up. Following, heroin and crack and getting off of the hardcore drugs, I became just a prisoner, just a violent man. I'd lost anything of any substance in my life. I was a prison of my own actions, a prison of addiction, a prison of abandonment, a prison of rejection, all these different stuff that I couldn't see a way out of in my strength. I'd had 20 plus years of living a criminal lifestyle, and I was kind of physically, mentally, emotionally, psychologically beaten to a pulp within who and what I'd become. So I went down to chapel, and there was just 2 of us, me and another guy, and the prison minister. But something happened in that room. It was as if the room was thick. I just felt this presence that made me cry. And I went away from there just so stirred up. But I generally believe I was convicted of the man that I'd become. And I went to the floor in my cell. The cell was tiny, just a little square box. I said silently, between me and God, if you are real, if you're hearing my cries and you are with me, place a dove outside my window in replace of the pigeons. Thankfully, I didn't take my own life. I got up in the morning, I went to the window, I opened the window and we're just looking out, and like in slow motion, the pigeons lifted up and the white dove just sat there in front of me, and something inside here, like an electric spark, jumped. I knew something of significance had just happened, because, in my place of brokenness, in my despair, in that lowest place that I could be as a man, as a father, and as a person, God met me with such simplicity. He knew how I worked, and he answered in what I would say a handshake deal. I give my life to Jesus and to serve God that day, just me and him in a prison cell. But God gave me a way out through his love, through his mercy, through his grace, by saying, listen, son, I'm here. And that one act of him coming into my heart in a prison cell gave me the ability then to say, you know what, right, let's go with this. And went into the prison, and I started to write all this stuff down in this notebook with this pen, all this garbage. And I had tears streaming down my face, and I just started to write stuff and set fire to the paper, write it, set fire to the paper. And I don't even know what I was doing. It was just all this garbage coming out, and I just knelt. All I knew as a little boy was to put your hands together, kneel and pray. And that's what I did as a grown man. I used to just go to the floor, to the window, and just pray and just tell him how sorry I was for all this garbage that I'd done. Just writing it down. It was as if like I was going through a washing. That's what it felt like. And then I physically gathered this ball of rage up that had started at the point of my mum's death on the settee when I found her, and I placed this rage at his feet. I went to bed, I got up, and my heart, I call it a waterfall of love, it just started to flood with this feeling that I had not felt for so many years. It was as if my heart had woken up from as if the stone had popped, and this waterfall of love and I had such a peace on my stomach, because my stomach used to be like a washing machine, and I just had this gift of peace. The being that created this whole universe and all these questions that I'd asked for all these years was like, what, he cares about me? Little old Alan, that baby little lost boy who was so frightened, so scared, just running away from life, scared, and just full of fear and abandonment and rejection. I don't care how long it takes. I don't know how many times you get it wrong. I'm not going to give up on you. And everyone else in life had always given up on me, but God didn't. What they see in front of them today is not a career criminal, a violent man, you know, a horrible, nasty piece of work. It's a loving, caring man of God that wants to help people, whose whole life and purpose is to set people free from the captivity of the mind, from the prison of addiction, from the prison of mental health, from physical prisons. And the solution for that prison and breaking those chains is Jesus and his love, and the fact that he gave himself as a sacrifice for all of us, for that little tiny lost boy, Alan, but for any lost boy or girl within yourselves. And the most beautiful thing with my father in that restoration is that 2 Christmases ago, the same guy that walked out of the door walked in for Christmas, and we celebrated our first ever, you know, family Christmas together. I was 43 years old. He'd left, so it took over 40 years, and then he walked back through the door. That was a full circle of us being restored and me being put back together, and that's God's grace.